I guess so you mentioned about the frustrating part is there's not enough awareness of how important it is to get adjusted for kids, because all these kids that play sports, you're knocking things out of place, and you're going to bounce back because you're a kid and it's not going to really hurt you, so much. But all those little things add up, and all of a sudden you hit your 20s and you're like, man, why does my back hurt? Now you got a desk job and you're not as active anymore. And I think that if more people went as kids, there'd be a lot less issues as adults, and they'd be more inclined to fix it right away rather than wait until it gets so bad that then the only option is surgery.
This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals.
Yep.
Mostly.
So I got to ask you, where do you get your news?
You had to start with that one.
Let's just start out. Let's get into it.
So I actually get a lot of news on Instagram now, like a lot of like private and like independent people. More like I used to watch a lot more like Fox News, but there's a guy named Ian Carroll. I go on Instagram and follow him, and mostly him lately because he comes up with some really good stories. He's got a lot of good sources, it seems like, so he kind of finds the inside track on the stories that they hear about, but like the actual details that we don't know about.
Yeah.
So I've been following him a lot. And
it's kind of funny because like everything for me is Twitter or X. I
get some of it from X, and I've been following more like the Doge stuff just to kind of see what's going on with that, and then just following this. It's interesting. Like it's an interesting time. There's a lot of things going on, and it's cool to see, and I think things are going to get better as the year goes on.
I would tend to agree. By the way, you guys are listening to the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, where we have Middle Tennessee business owners, entrepreneurs, and professionals that come into this room to have real conversations that ebb and flow, that go down tangents and rabbit holes and all that fun stuff. It is a Friday afternoon, so we're probably a little bit loopy from the week, but bear with us. Today's guest, as you heard him coming into the show, is Mr. Frank Marghella with Ideal Wellness and Chiropractic. Have I got that right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. And if you listen to a podcast called The Talk of Music City Real Estate, another podcast that is produced by yours truly and it'syourshow.co, which, by the way, if you're looking for a podcast or short form content, man, what a company to get it through.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
25 plus years of experience with yours truly at the helm. We were producing podcasts back when they were popular in 1997. But basically, we met through that particular show with Monty Moore and Carrie Ann Sear. And you have a lot of very agreeable and interesting worldviews and viewpoints on things. Plus, we're from Jim talking, take two. We're both from the same part of the country. You're from like Long Island, right?
Yeah, Long Island. I grew up there and went to high school there. And
where in Long Island?
So Massapequa, Long Island. So
guys, I'm going to warn you right now. Whenever I get around somebody that's from the Northeast, it's going to come out of me. I'm going to start talking like this. Okay, forget about it. Long Island, because I grew up that way.
Long Island. I grew up Massapequa. So about Massapequa. Seinfeld's from Massapequa. The Baldwin brothers are from Massapequa. Not so good. Joey Buttafuoco's from Massapequa, if you remember that story.
I do.
That Gilgo Beach killer just as of recently was from there. So we haven't been on the good side.
North Shore or South Shore?
South Shore, Long Island.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that in between?
So it's like between, so it's Nassau County. So it's between, Nassau County and like almost to the Suffolk County border, if anybody knows where Long Island is in the middle. And then, probably 30 minutes from Queens, about 45, 50 minutes from Manhattan.
Okay. Yeah. So it's about the middle of the island.
Yeah. Right. Almost smack in the middle.
So there was a time in my life that if I made a different decision, chances are I may not have been here.
Yeah.
And at that time in 2001, I had a choice to work for WBAB.
Oh yeah. I'm familiar with that. I used to listen to them.
Yep. Because I was up at WRKI, the I-95, the home of rock and roll up in Danbury.
Yeah.
And it was either Vegas or Long Island. I said, you know what? I've had enough of Northeast weather. I'll give the desert a shot.
Yeah.
And we're glad we did. So here we may have never met.
Well, it's kind of, I'm in the same boat.
And you're from Long Island, for crying out loud.
I know. Well, it's kind of the same boat. So when I finished chiropractic school, my parents had moved to New Hampshire. So I didn't want to keep going north. I was like, let me go south now. This is my chance to go south. And I didn't want to go back to Long Island and live like in somebody's basement or live with some random roommate. So, and I want to go to New Hampshire and live in my mom's house. So I was like, let me go south. So I found a guy that had a bunch of clinics, and I actually picked Nashville kind of like randomly. I kind of put my finger on the map. Nashville hadn't been really cool yet. Like it wasn't the cool place to move. This was 2007. And I wanted to go to a place in the South that had professional sports and warmer weather. Yeah. And this guy had a place in Nashville. He had some other places down south, but Nashville kind of called to me, and I just got in my car and drove down there.
When was this?
So this was, I finished school late 2006. And then 2 months later, I drove down to Nashville, January 2007.
Oh, wow.
Started working. I had a friend at school that had told me that she had a friend that she went to Ole Miss with, gave me his number. I'm like, you know what? I don't know anybody. The Super Bowl was coming up. I'm like, let me give this guy a call. Maybe I'll meet some people. Yeah. And I met a lot of people through that introduction that I still know today.
How many people thought you were down here to work at the Saturn plant? Or GM at that point? At
that point, no. They knew I was a chiropractor, so they knew that I was coming down here for that. And I figured too, I was 20. I just turned 26, and I figured, you know what, I might as well just do this now. If it doesn't work out, I could always go back home, but it worked out. I met my wife here that first year, actually playing kickball. Mm-hmm. I would go out and like meet people, and I saw this team one day come into a bar, and I asked them, you're playing flag football or something? They had all these jerseys on, and they're like, no, we play kickball. I'm like, oh, kickball, like gym class? They're like, yeah. So I said, well, can I play on your team? I'm like, I'm good at kickball. And they're like, sure. And they were all drinking and stuff. I don't think they even remember I talked to them. And then I show up the following week and play on their team. And then it was a co-ed league, and my wife happened to come down there because the captain of the team needed a couple girls because it was technically a co-ed league. So she would come down there, and I met her, and then we started dating and hanging out. And then a couple of years later, we got married.
So you married a Southern girl?
I did. I married a Southern girl.
What... Our appeal to, like, the Southern women being appealing to us is one thing.
Yeah.
What was appealing? Was it kind of like a foreigner in a foreign land kind of thing for her, you think?
I think so. So when I first moved here, my accent was even stronger, and I think
it's still strong.
It's still strong. But people, I think it like intrigued people because at the time, 2007, people weren't moving here from New York. They hadn't really done that yet. So Nashville was still more just native Nashvillians. Yeah. And I think people, they liked to hear me talk, and it was funny, like to listen to some of the things I had done, like up in the Northeast and everything. So it was, like I'd have people ask me, like, do you carry a gun? Like, do you have to carry a knife when you walk around? I'm like, it's not like, like I'm on Long Island. It's like the suburbs. It's not, It's not in the middle of the city.
Yeah. You're like pretty much in Dutchess County at that point.
Yeah.
Like Pauling and Brewster.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Up where we lived in Connecticut, it was like, that's where our parents moved us there. Well, I was born there. My brother was born in Yonkers, I want to say, but they moved to Connecticut because that was the country, and they wanted to get away from the city.
Yeah, so that was outside the city. There is Connecticut, but now and some of the best pizza is up there. I mean, I know you can talk about that all day, but I've watched pizza stuff now with Portnoy on Barstool, and he raves about New Haven pizza and everything, but really like New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, hands down some of the best pizza in the country.
In the world.
And definitely the world, because you could go to some of the worst places up there and it would be better than some of the best places like down here.
Right. Have you been to Joey's down here once?
I have been to Joey's. So I used to drive to Bellevue for my first job when I was working here, and Joey's is on Old Hickory by Maryland Farms in Brentwood. So I would drive past there and I would pick up pizza on the way home. Yeah. So I became friends with the family, and we had, connection because they were from New York and everything.
They've been on this podcast.
They have been? Oh, cool.
The Maccas.
Yeah. And they have, I think they have a catering business now.
It's, oh gosh.
It's somewhere like in Murfreesboro or something.
Yeah. Macabella Riverside, I want to say. Yeah. And they're going to freaking murder me if I get it wrong. But it's basically out there. For some reason, because my old man brain's starting to creep in. It's something like that. But yes, they're actually doing Joey's House of Pizza because one day they talk about the story in the podcast episode where one day they just didn't want to do it anymore. So they literally hung a sign on their door at their the restaurant that they had up in Elm Hill. Yeah. And it made the news. Like Channel 4 came out and
I believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, we would go there. That was our favorite pizza, hands down, when we first moved here.
Macavilla by Macavilla. I'm pretty sure it's called Macavilla.
Yeah, because they do like wedding catering and big events and stuff.
All events, big events like that.
Yeah, they're a great family. And every time I'd go in there, it was just like talking to like, my aunts and uncles at home.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And we had a lot of good conversations about, Long Island and Brooklyn. My dad grew up in Brooklyn. I'm pretty sure they were from Brooklyn and kind of right where my dad grew up. And it was just cool to talk to him about New York.
Macavilla at Riverside.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
They got the best stuff.
If they're watching this, you just got like a 2-minute freaking free plug to my tens of listeners. So, if you ever follow those guys, they do catering with the Joey's House of Pizza approach. So,
yeah, it's one of the only ways to get it now is through that catering business.
That's it.
But I think the son,
his daughter's down here,
or it's the daughter, has a pizza place and close by. And
they were on this podcast. I got to get them back on. Danielle and Ryan.
Yeah,
and it's called Nellie's.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
And I've heard I actually need to try it. It's just I live in Nolensville, so I go to there's a place called Amico's in Nolensville. Yeah, that's probably some of the best pizza I've had too. So when we moved, I told my wife, I said, all right, we got to stay within about 5 miles of this pizza place so that they can deliver to the house. But Miko's has been a good spot.
There was a place down here, a guy, I met him on voting day. He was in line with us and he was completely like unashamedly handing out business cards and flyers, just promoting his business while he was waiting in line. Smart of him. Because it, got me. He's like, hey, we're opening up a new Italian pizzeria. And I knew exactly where he was opening it. And I knew the place was way too small. He says it's mostly takeout and delivery and stuff. I said, well, that's great. Where in the Northeast? He's like, I'm from California. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. We'll try. It was good.
That's good.
It was good. It was close.
Yeah.
I would say very close. It was because there's definitely varying flavors to New York, Northeast pizza, I'll say. Yeah. You could have the cardboard crust and the thin amount of cheese, the right amount of oregano and spices on it that just make it, oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. We went to Manhattan last February for the first time in several years, my wife and I and my daughter. And, you throw a rock and you'll hit a good pizza place. Oh, yeah. And it was like, I think that's all we ate while we were there was Italian food.
I mean, that's what we do too. Like we go to Little Italy and we go to Chinatown and we go any place you go is just phenomenal.
Now, are you FBI full-blooded Italian?
So I'm only half. So my mom is Irish. My dad was full-blooded Italian. My mom's all Irish.
So you're like Jimmy from the Goodfellas.
Exactly. Yeah. So I can never be the big boss.
You can't get the button.
Yeah, I can't get it. I'm not full-blooded. I can't trace my roots down back to the old country.
That's right. When you find that people, I think it was maybe we knew that people were trickling into the area. Not that I'm an OG. We moved here. We're going to be here 20 years next month. Yeah. When you find other people from the Northeast, California are moving in, especially as they've been coming in droves in the last several years. What have your thoughts been on that?
So it's interesting because a lot of my friends, they're like, why are you going to Nashville? This is, back 2006, 2007. Yeah. But now they all want to visit here. They all want to come here for bachelor parties, golf outings. They come to Titans games and, whenever like some of their, the Giants come down here, the Jets or whatever. But all the people moving here, I think, I've talked to people over the years like, hey, like this is a good spot. Like this is there's something magical happening here in Nashville. And more and more people have poured in. So it's kind of funny because then we'll talk about this exact stuff. Where's the good pizza places? Is there good bagels? Is there good Italian food?
There aren't any good bagels.
Let me tell you, I have just found one. Well, there's two. And the guy that I just started finding out, he lives in Nolensville. It's Empire State Bagels. This guy is from Long Island, used to work at a bagel shop, has moved around the country several places, but he was like, man, he moved here and he's like, I want to have a bagel shop or a bagel spot for people to have great bagels. and he uses all organic ingredients, and they taste just as good as New York. This is the only place I've found that's really good, and he's like 5 minutes from my house. So he's making them out of his house now. I think he's going to eventually have a write this down, Empire State Bagels, and they deliver out of their house. You just go to their house. He lives like 5 minutes away from me in Nolensville. But phenomenal bagels, and that's where I've been going lately. My family's going to come in next week, so I'm going to have more people be the judge of how good these are. And for Easter, they're going to come in, so we're going to get a bunch of bagels that weekend. That's
the thing, is that those people around here that have grown up here, never been to the Northeast, maybe they've been to New York City, never really explored much outside into the boroughs or even beyond. It's amazing how it just permeates into those surrounding areas. If you want to go there, you're going to get excellent food like you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, the food is just top notch. I mean, how you see Southern barbecue is what is akin to what we see as like
That's a good way to put it.
Right. And, but if you want to be around miserable people, that's going to be there too.
Yeah.
The common salutation in New York City is, what are you looking at?
Right.
Right.
I don't miss that part. I don't miss the busyness. People can be jerks. I feel like it's gotten a little bit less aggressive up there over the years, but still.
How often do you go back?
I go like once or twice a year.
Yeah.
I typically will go see my friends and family in Long Island, stay at their house, and we'll go out to like a Mets game or something.
Yeah.
I'm going in June, so we're gonna go there to a Mets game and see
Mets
some
fan?
family. Huh?
You're a Mets fan?
Mets fan, yeah, unfortunately.
Well, I like the Mets because we're
gritty.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're the underdog and we're gritty.
A buddy of mine is a huge Mets fan. He's a lifelong Mets fan. And so in empathy to him, or sympathy?
A little bit of both.
I'm just a Mets fan by proxy.
Yeah.
Because the Yankees, okay, you've won enough.
Yeah.
It's like, the Patriots, for a minute now, the Chiefs, excuse me.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to love that water hitting the wrong tube.
Yeah, next year will be 40 years. So I was like 5 years old when they won their World Series in '86. So I didn't really completely appreciate it because I was a little kid.
Right.
But I've been dying to see them win one here. And I feel like they're on the right track. They got a good owner. They got Juan Soto this offseason. They got some good superstars. But the problem is the Dodgers keep buying everybody.
Yeah.
So now they're like the evil empire where the Yankees used to do that. Now that they're the evil empire. But the Mets are in that top five category where they got the money. They got the owner that wants to win. He's from Long Island. He's a big Mets fan his whole life. So they're also building around the stadium now. It's all like chop shops. It's all kind of, dumpy over there around in Queens. They're going to build a casino. They're going to build a bunch of parks. They're going to build a bunch of hotels and shopping areas. They're going to clean up all that area around the stadium, which I think will be nice because it's been like kind of dangerous and dumpy for so many years that you don't want to walk around there. But now it seems like it's going to get a lot better.
Oh, that's good.
So I'm excited to go. I think they're going to start building it. So probably in the next 2 or 3 years, they'll have the casino built, the hotels and all the other stuff. And then it'll be fun to go back there because I can go to the game, go stop by the casino, go see my friends and stuff.
Yeah, they're probably going to have better accommodations, hotels, things of that nature. Other sports, football, hockey?
So I grew up a huge Ranger fan. I grew up a big Giants fan, New York Giants, and then Knicks fan. I loved basketball back in the 90s.
Yeah. And I guess being a fan of gritty underdogs, you could pick either one of those teams.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Giants
have actually won, but now they're the underdog again because the team's fallen apart. The ownership is just kind of, it's all messed up.
It's like the Titans.
Yeah, Titans, same thing. The Jets, they're all dysfunctional.
Yeah.
They can't seem to get, at least the Giants have won recently, but I've become a huge Preds fan since moving down here, and I was able to go to the Stanley Cup, in 2017, which was amazing.
It's like all of our teams have almost gotten the gold ring.
They're all on the verge, and then they kind of like have these ebbs and flows. Even the Titans, just 2 years ago, the Titans were one of the best teams in the league. People forget that.
Yeah.
And I was very surprised last year they only won 3 games. I was actually like, man, I can't believe with this talent they had in the offseason. So I'm hoping this year, I think they're going to be a little bit, kind of pushed aside. It's the Titans. I actually think they're going to do a little better than people expect.
Think so.
I think they're going to pick Cam Ward with the number 1 pick.
I've been hearing that.
Because they didn't sign a quarterback in the offseason. They haven't really done much as far as like looking at adding even like, veterans and stuff. So I think they're going to probably pick Cam Ward, say it's a quarterback competition with Cam Ward and Will Levis. And of course, it's not really, they're gonna give Cam Ward the job, but they're gonna say it's a competition. But honestly, he seems like the real deal. The more film I've seen on him, the more people I've seen, they say he's the real deal. So I really want to see the Titans win. I love watching the games. I hope they win it. And then the Giants have the third pick, and hopefully they'll pick maybe Travis Hunter, who plays offense and defense. He's one of the only guys that've ever done that, cornerback and receiver. So that would be pretty cool to have him on your team. I hope you're right, but it's like lately they just keep on making all the bad decisions. Yeah.
It's like I'm not as up on it as most people. I'm fairly new to actively following football. But I know that when they started the other guy, whoever the relief quarterback was in the Titans, I can't remember his name, they won.
Yeah.
I think he won the games.
Yeah, the backup was winning more games last year.
Yeah. And run with the backup for crying out loud.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph. So he signed, I think he's back with the Pittsburgh Steelers because he was originally with them. Yeah. He's like, let me get out of here. But I feel like the Titans are on the right track. I want to give this coach and his dad is the lines coach. He coaches the offensive line. He's one of the best coaches ever to coach the offensive line. They have a lot of good pieces, and the ownership did spend money. So I feel like they're motivated to win. We have a new stadium they're building, which looks phenomenal. Yeah. And they want to put a winning product on there because no one's going to go to the games if you don't.
Now, getting back to being a Mets fan.
Yeah.
This has kind of popped into my head. Does that give you license to like both if need be? Kind of like put you like, hey, I'm a Mets fan, which means I get to like the Sox. Or are the Boston Red Sox still like off limits?
So it's funny because I actually lived up in the Boston area for a little bit. So after we moved out of New York, we moved up to Lowell, Chelmsford, which is north Massachusetts. So I kind of was a little bit of a Boston fan for a short time, but then there's such a rivalry still with that between the Mets and the Yankees and the Red Sox that I had to go back. And then when I moved here, my father-in-law is a huge Red Sox fan, so I couldn't obviously like them anymore. So we had to have that little rivalry going. So he's also a big Patriots fan, Celtics fan. So when the Giants won the Super Bowl, that was like one of the first times I met him. I go to their house for the Super Bowl. I'm with my wife, my future wife at that point. And we're watching this game, and the Patriots were favored by like 3 touchdowns. They were supposed to kill them. This was 2008. And I'm like, are they going to actually win this game? And I'm thinking, no, there's no way they're going to blow this game. And sure enough, they somehow win this game. They scored a touchdown at the end of the game. I like leaped out of my couch. Like I probably could have touched the ceiling. I jumped so high. And my father-in-law was just sitting there like, just this look at like could have like sliced me open with this look that he gave me.
It's so funny because I think I remember that game because, like I said, I was always a fan, dare I say, from afar.
Yeah,
Giants fan because my dad was a Giants fan.
Oh, but that's cool.
I think even he was, from afar. Didn't go out of his way. But it's a Super Bowl. Oh, look at that! The Giants are playing. That's literally how much I followed it. And I think they actually won. I want to say in the last 10 years,
2 of them. So they won. That was 2007 when I moved here. 2008, and it was January, February 2008. They had the Super Bowl. They won that. And then they won in 2011 again. So they went on another run like towards the end of the year, counted out, win a bunch of games, somehow squeak into the playoffs, beat a bunch of good teams on the road, and then win again. That time it was a little more like, okay, I think they can do it this time. Yeah. And they played the Patriots again, and they beat them again, but it was more like not the David and Goliath story as much as it was the first time.
Right. It's like whenever they do have a chance, they tend to pull it out.
Yeah.
So we were pulling this past year for definitely the Lions.
Me too.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see that.
I would have loved it because you gotta love Dan Campbell.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah. He's such a culture guy. He gets in there with them. He's doing all the exercises, all the drills with them. If he calls, hey, drop and give me 20, he'll likely do it himself. And we watched one of those embedded camera shows like Hard Knocks. I think they did a special with them in training camp.
Yeah.
We just love the guy. And because of that, it's like, hey, you gained a bunch of fans. We were pulling for you. But I think they choked in the first game this past year.
Yeah, they got to the playoffs and they lost that first game. But they also, as the season went on, they started losing all their defensive players.
Right.
They were banged up, and they ran into I think was it the Vikings that beat them?
I want to say, yeah.
It was at the end of the year.
Because it was surprising they weren't supposed to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they ran out of gas, and they had injuries that they just couldn't overcome, and they just had a good game plan, and they just lost.
I couldn't believe the Chiefs lost.
Yeah, I was, it's funny, you're watching that game, they're down all these touchdowns, and you're like, okay, they're going to turn it on here or something. The refs are going to call some penalty, and, because that was the whole conspiracy all year was, the refs were on their side. And
the refs were wearing their logos.
Yeah.
And their colors. All the memes.
Yeah, they were retiring the refs' jerseys that gave them all the good calls and stuff. Yeah. And they wanted, and the whole conspiracy of Taylor Swift making it because they, and I get they probably did make a lot of money with her going to the games because they drew in a lot of fans that never watched football before. Right. But like they were one of the worst teams to actually make it. One of the worst, 15-2 teams that ever existed because they won all these games last second that really they shouldn't have. Right. And when they ran across the Eagles in there, the Eagles had a great game plan and they just destroyed them both on offense and on defense and sacked Mahomes a bunch of times. I mean, they had the perfect game plan and they took it to him and they didn't let their foot off the gas. Yeah. And they deserved to win. They had a great, as a Giants fan watching Saquon go over there, that was rough. But I'm happy for him, but I'm thinking, man, the Giants, this is what you messed up. You let one of the best running backs probably in the league, in league's history, leave, go to your rival, win a Super Bowl, and just like, and he's not taunting them at all. Like he's a nice guy, but he must love that he went over there and got away because the Giants wouldn't have won nothing. I mean, even if they re-signed him, they wouldn't have won. Yeah. They had no line, they had no way to protect him. Like he would have got hurt again. So I'm happy for him, but I'm very jealous that we couldn't have him anymore.
Well, this has been a great podcast episode, Talking Sports. You do chiropractic, go check them out. I'm joking. So let's kind of turn your sights and promote you a little bit. You got here in 2007, like you said. Yeah. Just fresh out of chiropractic school.
That's right.
And did you start your own business at that point down here?
So that first year I worked for somebody. I was actually downtown on Charlotte Avenue. I worked for somebody at a clinic there. And I didn't really like that. So within that first year, going back to where I met that group at the Super Bowl when I first came here, I just called them up. One of the guys I met there was a chiropractor. So he was actually in the process of moving back to Memphis. So I ended up buying his part of the practice in Bellevue. And then I was in Bellevue for 7 years from 2008 to 2015. And then a funny thing, he came back to the Nashville area, this guy, Dr. Jason Payne, and he went and bought my practice back from me. Oh, wow. And he went back to the Bellevue office for a bit. And then I went to the Franklin area, and I've been in Cool Springs ever since then.
So you started your business right around that time?
Yeah.
Ideal.
So I had the one in Franklin, and then I moved and kind of really restarted from scratch because at that point he bought the patient base and everything. So I had to just go to Franklin and kind of restart everything from scratch. I didn't really have anybody follow me at that point because it was kind of the agreement, like everybody would stay there. Yeah. But I was able to build it up. And, not only do we do chiropractic, we do a lot of weight loss. We do a lot of red light therapy. So we help a lot of people with, inflammation, pain with the red light, but also body contouring, fat loss, cellulite reduction, a lot of like the cosmetic stuff, but also weight loss and just more long-term changes to the metabolism.
So when you got into it, because chiropractic for the longest time, we started hearing about it back in the 80s. Now you're mid 40s right now?
Yeah, so I'm 44.
Okay. So you remember in the 80s, chiropractors, like I want to say the establishment did not want them to be perceived as a medical professional. Yeah. So you had a little bit of a stigma to overcome. I think that's, you kind of got into the game where that was well established that you guys were legit. It was a legitimate form of practice and medical and stuff like that. Every time I've gone regularly to a chiropractor, it's improved my life. It's just a matter of affording.
That's awesome.
But when it's done the right way, I've been the guys where, hey, something in my ankle hurts and they still do the same moves. Right. So it's kind of like, how is this supposed to fix my ankle? But,
yeah. But you know, I like what chiropractic has done because they've made it more legitimate. There's a lot more credentialing that you need to more credits that you need to go to school. I took 5 different board exams to get my license to be a chiropractor. Yeah. And then I have to do continuing ed every year for 24 hours a year. I got to get every year to keep my license and just get better at what I do. But, besides pharmacology classes, chiropractic takes around the same amount of classes that a medical doctor does now. Yeah. And actually, in my opinion, we do a lot more with diagnosis, with x-rays, with soft tissue injuries, with musculoskeletal stuff. I mean, that's our wheelhouse. And I feel like, it's funny. So like I had an injury that I went to I had walking pneumonia actually earlier this year. I got really sick. I normally don't get sick, and I had walking pnumonia. So I went to a place, and they were like, "Oh, let's take an X-ray." I'm like, "Oh, actually, I already took an X-ray at my office." I said I didn't really see much. I know how to read the X-rays for the lungs and stuff. So I showed them, and they're like, I'm like, "Do you want to see it?" They're like, "Oh, well, we don't really read those anyway." And I'm like, "So then why are you taking these X-rays if you're not reading them?" Yeah. And I'm thinking, some of these ones, like they just they'll take X-rays and may not know, but I feel like a chiropractor really has the training to see X-rays. I've looked at lungs and stuff, but we mainly focus on the joints. Yeah. Back, neck, knee, shoulder. And I do feel like we've gotten a lot more credit now because if you look at all these major sports teams, every sports team has a chiropractor. Most of these major D1 colleges have a chiropractor. The Olympics bring 150 to 200 chiropractors to every Olympic event every 4 years. They'll take them all over the world to do it. There's actually the director of the Olympics now, medical team, is a chiropractor. So I feel like it's grown a lot with the profession. So I think that it's gone a long way now, that it's more legit now.
You talked about, before we started, the nuance and the element of getting out there and being loud.
Yeah.
Consistently being loud. Is that what you did from the get-go? Starting over in Franklin?
It is. And actually it went back to, so when I was at chiropractic school, you have to get a certain number of credits. You have to have a certain number of adjustment credits to graduate. You have to have a certain number of x-ray credits. You have a certain number of extremity adjustments that you do, a certain number of exams that you do. You have to do all this stuff. So you go to the student clinic, you get, I think it was like 50 adjustments, and that was easy because any student could do that. You just adjust your friends and then you get your credits. When you go to the main clinic, then you have to get actual people in the town. And this is Davenport, Iowa that I'm in. And, I'm like, all right, how do I do this? So I finish the student clinic, I go to the main clinic, and I go in my first day that I make it in there, and I go in, I sit down, and there's like 3 or 4 other kids or potential chiropractors in there. And I'm like, what's everybody doing? They're like, oh, we're waiting for them to give us some patients. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, okay. So I wait there for about an hour and nothing's really happening. We're all like staring at each other. And I'm like, this sucks. I'm not doing this. Yeah. So I went out and got a job at Outback Steakhouse, which I had worked in Massachusetts at before that. And I had been a waiter many times before that. And I'm like, I'm just going to recruit my own people because I'm not going to sit here and wait for somebody to hand me something. I don't have the patience for that. So I went there.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended.
But boom.
So I recruited a lot of the workers there, and I recruited a lot of the people that would come in and sit down as patrons in there, and they'd come in and be patients. So
how did you go about it when they're sitting at the table? You're delivering the check. Do you hand them a business card?
Yeah. So I would say, listen, I said, I'm a student over here at Palmer. I'm trying to be a chiropractor. I said, we need to get credits at school. We need people to come in. And I said, do you have any back pain? You have any neck pain going on? Have you ever seen a chiropractor? And some of them had, some of them didn't. But, I was able to make a lot of relationships where I'd have people come in and become patients. Right. And then I also started taking extra courses at school, like for extremity adjustments for like knees and feet and shoulders and elbows and wrists and stuff like that, which a lot of kids, they would show us, but a lot of kids didn't want to do that. So then I would be in the clinic and they would start coming and they'd knock on my door, say, Hey, Frank, we got an elbow over here in this other room. Can you come adjust that? Hey, we got a knee over in this other room. can you come adjust that?
So you became a specialist.
Yeah.
And by proxy got introduced to other people.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I would go in the room and I would adjust, it would be somebody else's patient, but I'd go in, adjust their knee, and then I'd go back to my room and adjust my patient, but I would get a credit for a knee adjustment or a shoulder adjustment, whatever. But it was more like, and that wasn't that I was very good at that point. I just had the balls to just go in there and do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know I'm not going to hurt anybody. And the worst thing that happens is nothing happens and nothing moves. But I had the guts to go in there and try it. And that's why it's called practice. Yeah. Because, you go into practice, you do. And when you're first in practice, you are practicing because you've only had, a number of people that you saw. And then I also went, and I would go into town. They had a free clinic that people would come to. I would go there, get credits just to get some people in. I even went to Vietnam for a month when I was in school on a clinic abroad trip back in 2006, I think it was, before I graduated, and I got a bunch of credits there. And we went to Dalat, Da Nang, Ho Chi Minh City. We went all over Vietnam for almost a month, and we got a lot of credits there. And we would go to these hospitals, and people would wait outside these hospitals for like 8 hours, and we would see 500-600 people come in there, and we had about 20-30 students and a few proctors, and we would be there all day. There'd be like one rickety fan at the top of the hospital that barely worked. We'd be sweating and like dripping all of these people, but they appreciated us. We brought them some medical supplies because they don't have a lot of stuff out there, and we got a lot of credits, and I had a lot of experience going out there and seeing another country because I'm like, you know what? When's the next time I'm ever going to go to Vietnam?
Right.
So it just kind of worked out that I was able to do that.
That's great, man.
So it was a cool experience.
In Outback, though, I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
Did you kind of go up to him and say, did you guys think I was funny? Did I crack you up? You're like, now I really want to crack you up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I had to do that.
No, and it's funny. So the guy now that I work with, I met him at Outback. He's one of the other chiropractors I work with. And I was like his first patient at the student clinic. And now, he was from, I think, North Dakota. I was from New York. Somehow we both ended up in Franklin, and now we're, working at the same office. So
nice.
It's just funny. I've known him for, over 20 years now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's got to come together.
Yeah. Small world.
What were some of the challenges that you had growing this thing? Like, what was a kind of a thorn in your side? Kind of like, me turning on the TV before we started.
Yeah. So there is still some stigma with chiropractic, and it still isn't quite as mainstream as I want it to be, because it's just not, I do think that there was some damage done years ago with, chiropractors are quacks and all this stuff, and that's fine. And there is a lot of bad chiropractors, but there's also a lot of bad dentists, and there's a lot of bad, MDs and stuff. So it's any profession, but I feel like, I think I stand above a lot of them because I'm able to do so many different things in our office. We're like a one-stop shop for everything. But it's actually, I became a chiropractor because in high school, I started going when I was playing football, and I had some injuries to my back in football. My mom took me to a chiropractor, got me better. I had a great senior year. We won the championship, and I was like, man, this is a cool thing. I can help people. I got better without medications, without any surgeries, without any injections. And I was, 16, 17 years old. 17 years old at the time. And I was like, man, this is cool. I want to do this, and I want to help athletes. So now I work with more athletes over the years, mostly like student athletes, like middle school and high school. I guess so you mentioned about the frustrating part is there's not enough awareness of how important it is to get adjusted for kids, because all these kids that play sports, you're knocking things out of place, and you're going to bounce back because you're a kid, and it's not going to really hurt you, so much. But all those little things add up, and all of a sudden you hit your 20s and you're like, man, why does my back hurt? Now you got a desk job and you're not as active anymore. And I think that if more people went as kids, there'd be a lot less issues as adults, and they'd be more inclined to fix it right away rather than wait until it gets so bad that then the only option is surgery. So I try to get a lot of these parents to realize, hey, if your kid has concussions, let's bring them in and get them checked out, because we work with a lot of concussions. We have laser treatments we can do to heal the damage that happens from a concussion. There's a lot of, soft tissue injuries from concussions and potential brain damage.
Yeah.
And getting adjusted really does reverse a lot of that damage. And if you continually get concussions, now you might be able to play in high school, maybe college, but if you start accumulating concussions, you're going to have a rough adulthood. You're going to have a lot of problems with more potential for dementia, Alzheimer's, just headaches in general, migraines, neck pain, chronic disc problems. So I think it's a matter of still like getting the word out that, hey, like be proactive. Don't wait till your body breaks down. It's much easier to fix it when it's still intact rather than recuperate when it's so damaged that it's almost too late at that point.
You know, it's funny. You ever hear of the concept of euphemisms?
Mm-hmm.
I think George Carlin did a whole bit on it back in the day. It's where you take a concept, his whole thing was shell shock, and then shell shock became battle fatigue. Battle fatigue became operational exhaustion. Operational exhaustion became, as we now know it, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
And it's the same condition, just called something different. It's funny, in this realm with concussion doesn't really deliver the impact.
Right.
They're actually called something different now. TBIs.
Yes.
Traumatic brain injuries.
It's true.
You know, so it's either we call them TBIs, which, okay, that's interesting. What does that stand for? Traumatic brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds bad.
That grabs your attention a
It
little
does.
more.
So it's kind of like it went the other way. Instead of the language being softened, it became more direct, which I appreciate, because we just experienced that with my daughter, who had a scenario here at the middle school, and the nurse was like pretty much friggin' negligent, to be honest.
Oh man, I'm
and
sorry.
we kind of brought it to the attention of the school board, and guys, you need to take this more seriously, because they didn't even call us to let us know it happened.
Oh.
She went to the nurse and she's like, "Oh no, you're fine." Like, no,
can't ignore that.
she got hit in the head with a soccer ball at full kick.
Yeah,
You can't ignore this. So it's funny to see how language actually went around the right way for a change.
Yeah, that is good.
You know,
that'll bring more attention. Just those words alone bring more attention to just concussion.
But it's funny getting onto this. It also made me think while you were talking, here we are, you know, as a society, we've got, you know, I would say issues with our food supply.
Absolutely.
Major issues, which hopefully, you know, RFK is going to address and fix.
I was very excited when they appointed him.
Yeah, because I'm a guy, I'm pushing 50. It's getting more and more difficult to stay in shape. And I'm in a shape, it's not a good shape, but it keeps on getting worse. And, you know, could I be making better food decisions? Absolutely. But I feel like I am, not to the point where I probably need to, but I don't remember it being like this. Like, you remember seeing the pictures of people on the beach in the 70s and 80s compared to now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's got to be causing all the inflammation as well. I sleep with a grounding blanket. It's made a world of difference.
Yes, I love grounding.
They're amazing.
So so going on that, you know, there is something wrong, and the deck is stacked against us. So that's the thing, is we have to be more aware of what we're eating, what we're drinking, you know, what we're around. Even like, you know, like you talk about cell phones, there's a lot of radiation that comes off cell phones. Everybody's, you know, has them in their pocket. Everybody has like computers around them, all these things around you. I'm glad you do grounding, because for those of you out there that don't know what grounding is, basically it resets your body's frequency. So you're absorbing a lot of these positive ions from computer screens, phones, TVs, you know, video games, whatever you're doing, all the electronics that you're around, your body absorbs those positive ions. And positive ions sound good, but they're really not. So what happens is there's too many of them. And because we're not outside touching the earth, we're not outside, you know, as much, and our body isn't physically like feet on the ground touching the earth, you're not removing that inflammation. So now the inflammation just stacks on itself. It stacks on itself. And it's shown that all that inflammation from, you know, too many positive ions, because the earth actually has the negative ions to neutralize those things. Your blood is, your red blood cells are sticking together. Mm-hmm. So I've seen videos of people, you know, before they do grounding, and they'll take a sample of their blood and it's all clumped up. And then 10 minutes later after grounding, everything's free flowing like a super highway. Yeah. So that's how quick you can get your body less inflamed. But a lot of people don't know something like that, and they don't know about grounding mats. So they don't know just to go outside and stand in the grass for 10 minutes.
Or just, you know, sit in the chair and put your feet on the ground.
Right. Yeah. Just as long as you're doing that, it makes a big difference. I bought a grounding mat for the winter when it's cold, but for the rest of the year, I go outside and I stand in the grass now. And I tell you, like, I can just feel sometimes the inflammation just literally flow through my body, out through my feet, and just out of me. It's incredible. But as far as you were talking about like RFK, when I saw that he was going to get in there as a chiropractor, I'm like, man, this is finally someone's addressing the food issues, you know, all the other medical problems that we've had, the autism. Why are so many people autistic? Why did it go from 1 in 10,000 now to 1 in 31? something's changed.
Yeah.
Why does everybody in the beach in the 70s and 80s look thin and in good shape? And now half the country's fat, half the country's obese. There's something's changed. And you look at all the chemicals now in the food that didn't exist 100 years ago, all the sugar that's in the food now, and it's hidden in a lot of the foods, and it really is stacked against us. So yeah, you might be making a lot of the right food choices, but still like your body is still damaged from all this stuff that's been going on. And hopefully over the next 4 years that they get rid of the chemicals in the food. They get rid of, they talk about the geoengineering stuff in the skies, whether people, think that's a conspiracy or not. It really is happening. So they actually have a task force on that now. So a lot of these things are going to finally get addressed. And I think people will get healthy over the next 4 years.
Does your garage door sound like this? If it does, it's screaming for help. Call Incredible Doors, 931-348-DOOR. We're making garage doors in Murray and Williamson counties work better and sound better. We just make them incredible again. Go to IncredibleDoors.com or call 931-348-DOOR. Follow us on Facebook for specials on maintenance visits, keypads, and other items. 931-348-DOOR. IncredibleDoors.com. I'm glad you brought up the conspiracy stuff because that was what really kind of made me like pay attention to you on that podcast. The first time I met you, you were just unashamed. You were unabashed about it. And you kind of put it out there. I think even you talk about it on your socials. That can either go good or bad for a business owner. Yeah. Typically for one of my clients, his name is Nick Woodard. He's got a podcast called the 615 Podcast. You should go check it out. And he shows his lifestyle online and stuff like that. You can definitely get a feel as to what side of things he's on by looking at his stuff on Instagram. And because of that, he plants a flag in the soil and has attracted customer clients that not only will try him on as a realtor, but are kind of, hey, we've got something in common. Yeah. You know what I mean? Have you found that to be the case?
I do. So I never want to get in arguments with people and stuff, but the majority of the people, I really think they are coming to me, whether they knew it or not, for an alternative solution and for, outside the box thinking. Because if we just keep doing the same thing we're doing, then we're going to have the same problems that we're having. We have heart disease, the number one killer. Cancer is the number two killer. The number three killer in this country is actually medical malfunctions, like medical procedures that gone wrong, whether it's surgery, whether it's the wrong medications. That's the number three killer in this country is medical issues like that. So people don't realize that. And if you're not paying attention and if you're not on the forefront of why this is happening, then you're just going to be another statistic. Yeah. And the last thing that I want for me or my patients is when you retire, do you want to end up in the nursing home or do you want to be on the cruise ship? Right. Because I want to be on the cruise ship. I don't want to be retired and then now my health has failed me because I put it on the back burner for so many years and now I can't enjoy my retirement years. Or even now, like I have young kids, like I want to be able to play sports with them. I want to be able to go to their games. I want to travel with them. If you have your health, my grandmother, I think we talked about this on the podcast with Monty. My grandmother lived to be 104 and she said, if you have your health, you're rich. And it's really true. Because if you have your health, it's your most important asset because then everything else falls into place. When you don't have your health, you could have 1,000 problems. But when your health fails you, now that's the only problem and it's the biggest problem you're going to face. And it's much harder to fix it when it's gone rather than, like I said, be proactive about it. And I really try to tell people about that and get that proactive approach. And that was the other thing I've noticed, just the South, unfortunately, has bad numbers for obesity, cancer, stroke, diabetes. Like we're in the bad area for people to be unhealthy. So it's kind of an uphill battle in some aspects of people just kind of used to doing that. But I think they're now getting it that you have to change or else you're just going to be another statistic. Right.
I found the grounding blanket to help because a lot of those ailments and maladies you talked about come from inflammation.
It cancer,
is.
Inflammation is one of the number one just undiagnosed problems, and almost everybody's inflamed. If you have bleeding gums, you got inflammation. If your joints are cracking, you got inflammation. When you use the restroom and it's not, if you want to go into like little happy bananas coming out, you have inflammation.
What's a happy banana? Go into that.
So like when you poop, basically it looks like a banana rather than like a thin like worm.
Okay.
Or if you're having like,
that's valuable. It's funny, but it's valuable information. You never think about it that way.
So if it's not coming out and it's not like in a nice little log there, basically, then something's wrong with your digestive tract. And if it's coming out really thin, it's inflamed. If it's coming out like just, diarrhea, basically, then you didn't process it. So now you're losing all the nutrients. It didn't absorb properly. So you're malnutrition, basically.
Right.
If you're always having gas and bloating, that's inflammation. If you're constantly getting sick, if you have colds, if you have, if you have strep throat all the time, if you constantly have ear infections, you got problems with inflammation. So your body is trying to overcome this stuff. And then, we take antibiotics, and the antibiotics there's a good time and place for that. But if every year you're on antibiotics multiple times a year, something's wrong underneath there that you can't fight off infections. That's worth getting checked out. And inflammation is usually the root cause of that. It's
funny that you talk about the all the different things, especially medicines that go into it. The antibiotics kind of kick the pendulum over so far that eventually something has to counteract and rebalance.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling like in the general culture that we are so aware at this point in time of the problem with the food supply and things that are out there that I think it has to balance out. It has to. We're at a point where it definitely has to start coming back. There's so many more people aware of it. You remember growing up in the 90s, everything was diet this and, low fat that. And it's like, okay, what are you giving up? They sold the like you're hearing all the other sides of all fat isn't bad.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like, why are you having butter substitutes? Butter is okay. Why are you avoiding salt? Salt is certain kinds of salt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like
Celtic salt. And
you're hearing about all this stuff that's coming out that actually, no, they've had it wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like,
they brought eggs back. They said eggs are, and which we knew that if anybody knew about that thinking has gone on for a while, but they finally acknowledged, hey, eggs are okay now.
Yeah.
And they put this whole thing and look at the other things. Like you go into, almost everybody's on medications. The average Tennessean's on like 6 or 7 different medications.
Yeah.
You look at like what's going on with the numbers though. Do you know what the numbers for cholesterol back in like the 50s was?
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. Well, go ahead.
So if you look at the numbers of cholesterol, it used to be like, I think it was either 3 or 350 was normal,
mm-hmm.
right? So as we got into the 70s and 80s, it went down to 200.
Are you talking like, is that A1C?
So like total cholesterol basically, of the numbers. Now it's down, they're talking like less than 180, like 150 and stuff. They keep lowering the numbers, but look at now, Lipitor is now the number one drug that has been sold over the last 30 years.
Cholesterol medication.
And it's a cholesterol medication. And how convenient when you lower the numbers that now everybody has to qualify for a statin.
Right.
And statins now are shown to cause Alzheimer's and dementia, a lot of joint pains, a lot of muscle aches, and just a lot of bad inflammation in your body because your body needs cholesterol. Your brain needs cholesterol. So if you don't have enough cholesterol, your brain cannot basically fuel itself. So it's like you're driving your car with no gas.
Right.
So you don't have enough cholesterol because you've stripped it now because of the statin. And they've found that really the cholesterol is not the cause of heart disease. Again, you go to heart disease, what caused that? Inflammation. And the inflammation comes with the terrible foods we're eating, all the food dyes that's in there, all the chemicals that are sprayed on the food, like glyphosates and stuff. And this is what's causing the heart disease, not the cholesterol, not the eggs that they were saying were so bad for a long time, not the butter that they were saying for a long time was so bad. That's the stuff you should be using to cook, like butter, coconut oil, olive oil. You want to avoid like margarine. You want to avoid like canola oils. There's a big thing about the seed oils now. Seed oils are one of the biggest things that cause inflammation. It's in almost everything. It's hard to avoid it, but if you start reading your labels, you'll really it comes down to people need to have family dinners. Like Italians are big on that. They have Sunday dinners. They make some pasta and sauce. A lot of it's homemade, so you know where it's coming from. Nowadays, people are eating out all the time. Kids got sports. They're stopping for fast food. Parents are busy with their work. They're not making food. They're heating up something in the microwave. If we go back to more roots and just, hey, let's prepare a meal and have a sit down dinner, You'll get to know your kids more. You'll also eat better. You'll get healthier, and you'll have better experience with your family.
Well, we do the, we got a bad habit emerge where we eat on the couch watching TV, but we're still making a lot of the food at home.
Yeah.
My wife's an amazing cook.
That's still better than, eating on the go in the car.
Big Mediterranean kind of diet.
I love it.
So recently I just went for my physical. Of course, it's every time I go, it's always some sort of bad news that comes out, but it's on me. I got to figure it out how to work on it. But you get the labs done. Yeah. And I always say, just like, might as well, it's like tomato ketchup coming out of my arms. But they, they came back, hey, you're a little bit, the A1Cs are elevated, those kinds of things. Immediately, like, hey, they want to put you on a cholesterol meds.
Right.
And I said, no.
That's good.
And I told my wife, I said, I'll give it another 6 months. And, she's like, yeah, statins, it's probably a last resort. I said, that's funny because I'm not big on this stuff. I have a very naive approach to it. But even then, I'm like, I don't need any more medications. I'm already on high blood pressure. And that's even the thing.
Yeah.
I've even heard about that, 120 over 80.
They've lowered that over the years too.
Right.
So then everybody qualifies for blood pressure meds.
Right.
I mean, you don't want your blood pressure high, but they have lowered those standards too over the years.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, everybody qualifies for these medications.
But I think a lot of the body indicates that if things are too high, I mean, when you have really high blood pressure, what's typically a visual indication? Do you know?
So you'll typically,
or even physical.
You'll have like headaches on the top of your head. You might have like your ears get red, or like, you just, your veins get really tiny, like in your hands.
Right.
Like,
you see like the people with the microscopic veins in their face.
Yeah. And their face
like
too.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is coming around where it's been more of a problem, because if you think about it, did you get high cholesterol because of a lack of Lipitor?
I don't know. I gotta look at my numbers.
You know what I mean? But like, more Lipitor is not the answer to that. That's not the cause of the problem. So, like, it's just like I say with, somebody's got back problems. Oh, I'm taking ibuprofen, I'm taking Aleve, whatever it is. Well, it wasn't a lack of that medication that caused that back problem.
Right.
Somehow you have a compressed disc. How did that happen? Well, sports injury, car accident, you're sitting too much, whatever it is. It's not going to fix the actual root cause of the problem. So the root cause of that problem for high cholesterol is coming from, again, the inflammation, the poor diet, the chemicals that are in your body. There's a lot of research I've done now that everybody's got parasites. Like everybody's got parasites in their body. It's in the food that we're eating. It's in a lot of the fast food. That's what's grossed me out. I've watched some videos lately on Instagram where they're taking like a McDonald's French fry and they're putting it under a microscope. Ooh. Like some of the, like, there's maggots in there. There's all these bugs. There's all these like weird like fuzzes and stuff on there. If you actually read about the process of how they make these like McDonald's French fries and the amount of chemicals they use on them. I think I do a lot of this research now just to gross myself out enough where I just stop eating something.
Right.
Because, I used to love McDonald's when I was a kid. I used to have it all the time.
But dude, when we were kids, it was different.
It was different.
Okay.
And they
if
did
you look
use
at the
beef
breakfast,
tallow.
right. You look at the breakfast cereals out there.
All the ingredients are different.
They're all chemicals. Back in the day,
it was basic.
Count Chocula, Frankenberry, all those different cereals, they tasted like somewhat of a semblance of natural food.
Yeah.
Because they were derived from it.
That's
right.
But
then now, all the big box brands that you see, the typical big brands, they don't taste the same. And you only know that if you have the knockoff brands.
Right.
They have the Malto-Meal brand, the Mom brand, which is the bagged section of the cereal aisle.
Yeah.
If you go and just treat yourself to the knockoff version of Cocoa Krispies or any of the, not that I do this on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But every now and then we indulge. I'll take some of those and bring it home. Oh my, this is how I remember it tasting.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't forget.
Well, and Trader Joe's is known for that. They actually don't put any dyes in their cereals and their candies and stuff. So they actually use like actual like fruits and vegetables to dye the thing instead of the chemicals.
Right.
And that's the issues. So that's what they're trying to fight now. And actually Tennessee's been on the forefront for some things. So I'm proud that they got rid of the red dye. They've gone after the geoengineering stuff. They've really tried to do some things on the front end here, more than other states have. But I think you see a lot. West Virginia just passed a bill where they banned all the colors, the food dyes. So I'm hoping that more states go, oh, well, we ban the red 40. Well, now we're going to ban all the other ones too. Cause there's really, I mean, there's like 20 of them. And there's a big correlation with ADHD, with poor nutrition of kids when they're eating this. The worst thing to do is feed your kid a chemical-laced bowl of cereal as their main breakfast, and then go sit in a chair for 8 hours and listen to a boring teacher. No wonder why everybody's got ADHD, right? You're fueling that problem. So part of it is that if you have a better diet in the morning, you give that kid eggs, you give that kid some sausage and some bacon or whatever, you're going protein-based, they're not going to have as much issues as they would, and give them some fruit and stuff, as if they give them some cereal and some pancakes. Yeah. Like there's a big difference when you're fueling that fire with all that sugar and all those chemicals. You're creating a kid that's going to have potential ADHD, and then of course they're not going to sit there.
Is mayonnaise a processed food?
Yes.
Is it?
So, and it's funny you say that, because I've just been watching videos on how easy it is to actually make your own mayo. I'm going to actually try it this month, and it's like a couple of eggs. It's
like some sort of an oil. Like
you can use olive oil, which is then much healthier. It's like a little bit of lemon juice, and there's something else. There's like 4 ingredients. Yeah. And I've been watching, and it whips up real nice. So I'm like, I just need to just start doing that, and I'll keep my own little jar of mayonnaise. It'll cost as much or less than the bottle I buy, and then there's not 20 ingredients in it. There's 4.
Yeah, that's the. Before you got here, I had my bowl of tuna fish.
I love tuna.
Yeah, tuna and canned chicken.
Yeah.
Keeping the just protein based. Try it, man.
Yeah.
So but I have to have the mayonnaise with the tuna.
Try. You can find a lot of mayo recipes.
Maybe guacamole or something.
Yeah, you can you can put a little mustard in there. I've tried mustard in there.
I've had mustard. I do mustard with the chicken.
Yeah. Yeah. You can put a little hot sauce in it, and there's a few different ways, but I'm going to watch that video again and actually try to make the mayo. It's like a couple eggs and the oil and the lemon juice.
Have you tried making your own peanut butter?
Yes, that's actually not that bad either.
Dude, it's simple. It's
like 2 ingredients.
Freaking simple.
Yeah.
Not even. It's just peanuts in a freaking food processor and you're done.
Yeah. And
we make our own. We haven't bought peanut butter in probably a decade.
That's awesome. And again, that's a much better way to do it. You're not having all those seed oils in there. And that's the other thing, is like everything has seed oils in it.
What was the thing? It was called the oil they're making, like they're putting the fries in now. I think Chick-fil-A does.
Beef tallow.
Beef tallow.
So we were talking about, McDonald's in the 80s and 70s and stuff. They used to use beef tallow. They got away with, in the 90s, I think they moved towards like canola oil and stuff, because there was a lot of the medical community said, that's bad for you. These vegetable oils are healthy. So that was really the cause of a lot of this, is the medical community shifted us towards the vegetable oils over the years that are now in everything, because they were cheap to produce, so it saved them money. But the beef tallow was more natural. They actually found that now that some of these companies are using it, it costs the same amount of money to use the beef tallow as the vegetable oil. The vegetable oil has to get changed more because it goes rancid quicker. The beef tallow, you can actually use it for longer times and more fries, and then it goes bad later. So really it ends up being a wash. Yeah. So as far as the cost, these businesses should all be switching to beef tallow. And the seed oils, they're not even real. There is no like canola plant. The canola oil is actually like engine lubricant is what it was. So I'm like, we're eating engine lubricant, so if you actually read into what these things are, like, you're just like, why am I eating that? Why do they just put it in everything?
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, getting back to my labs that I just got back in the results, and, my wife and I are kind of like, well, we're not surprised, we're not alarmed by it, but it's like, I don't feel any other ailments. I mean, my heart rate is typically 70s, 80s on average anyway, to my BPM.
Yeah. That's not bad.
I guess it's not, but a resting heart rate should be in the 60s or whatever. But I'm like, I wasn't too alarmed by it. I mean, it does kind of remind you to, okay, make better decisions, get out and walk. I was telling my wife the other day, I said, I have weights and stuff like that. I said, I just don't like doing it.
Yeah.
Not that anybody really does. I guess some people do. For me at this point in life is finding the thing that I want to go do. That's good for me physically. You know what I mean?
Walking, and go back to my grandma lived to be 104, and walking is one of the best exercises that if you only did walking, you'll be that much more healthier. The other thing that I read recently is when you eat after a meal, if you can walk for just 10 minutes after any meal you eat, you significantly decrease that blood sugar spike that happens after you eat. So it'll keep your insulin levels at a much lower level, much less chance. You said your A1C was creeping up. If you go for a 10-minute walk after any meal, it will keep that insulin from spiking, and it'll keep you in a lower A1C range. See, that's the thing. They did scare me a little bit with a pre-diabetic. Yeah. Thing. So when you get in the low 5s to mid 5s, I think that's the pre-diabetic range. Yeah. But people don't realize a lot of this is controlled by, it's not, they always say genetics. Only 20% of these problems are actually genetic. 80% are lifestyle. So really most people can change that, and just something simple like walking for 10 minutes after a meal will dramatically lower that spike of insulin, which will keep you out of the diabetic range. I did walking. This is going to sound pathetic. If it's cold, I don't want to go walk. Yeah, I get it. I mean, I do the same thing. Yeah. So, it's getting warmer now. I'm more inclined to walk. But when I do walk, I'm like, well, I don't want to do a mile and a half. I want to do 4. Yeah. And it's like you freaking kill yourself in I got to remind myself, no, small steps. Yeah. No pun intended. To kind of build. So what I do in the winter, like if I want to try to walk after a meal, I have a treadmill in the house. I'll just do 10 minutes on the treadmill and like watch a video on my phone or something. But if it's warmer out, the other thing is I try to take the kids out. I'm like, hey, we're gonna go for a walk. We're gonna go for a bike ride after dinner. Bike riding, I do like. Yeah. So that's fun. Enjoy. And that's the thing, like weightlifting's good, but some people, it honestly may hurt you more than help you. If you can do it. Yeah. Yeah. If you can do it, good. But also, and if you have problems weightlifting, you need to see a chiropractor because we can help you out with that too. Of course. I've been planking lately. Yeah. So there's actually excellent. A video online, on the trythatinaSmallTownPodcast.com or trythatinaSmallTown.com on their YouTube page. We put it up there. And at the end of one of the podcasts, they were talking about planking. And, they're all in relatively good shape. I am me. And we talked about planking, and they said, well, how long can you? I said, I've actually been doing it recently. And they're like, oh, how long can you go for? I'm like, I've been doing like 30, 40 seconds, stuff like that. I said, I could probably go over a minute, and they all start talking, and the machismo and the bravado starts coming out. So at the end of this episode, we're going to go do a plank off. So it was myself, Tully, and Neil, guys in great shape. Yeah. Tully especially. And we did a plank off, the 3 of us. Nice. And Neil was the first one to go out. Oh, wow. I think he lasted about a minute or so. Dude, I went for 2 minutes and 25 seconds. Yeah, man. Yeah. I surprised myself. That's awesome. And that's my average now. Well, it's a high average at this point. But Tully went for 3 minutes and 10 seconds, I think. That's impressive. It is. For a plank? Yeah, that is a long time. The other thing I've read is you can do get a kettlebell and do like you kneel on the ground and pass the kettlebell around your back and around the core front, and that really works your core. And they're actually saying planks and these kettlebell pass around things and these halos that you can do with the kettlebells are actually better than doing like straight up sit-ups or crunches because you actually engage your full core instead of just like your lower half or your upper half on those sit-ups. And so you don't work out on a you just kind of do like calisthenics type stuff or? So I usually do, so like there's times I've worked out at gyms, there's times I've worked out at the house. Lately it's more like stuff I've been doing at the house and, because you don't want to be filmed at the gym? Yeah. Can you believe that's a thing now? I know. Do you come across that in the gym, people with their friggin' phones out? And it's a lot more frequently now. Yeah. And it is distracting. I grew up where personally, like now I've done some videos, like when I turned 40, I was doing a bunch of posts about me hitting 40, but hey, like I can still work out. You can still do it. And I would post some stuff about it, but it was for my business. I wasn't trying to like show off. Yeah. But when I go to the gym, I don't want a phone. I don't want any distractions. Like I want to go in there. I want to listen to heavy metal and I want to hit it and I want to get out of there. What's your preferred band? Metallica. There you go. That's my number one. I'm actually going to go see them in a couple of weeks here at Nissan Stadium. I've never seen them. They're coming. So I think it's May 2nd and May 4th, I think. Let me know if you have an extra ticket. And one of the best shows, Disturbed. I love Disturbed, AC/DC, Smashing Pumpkins. I just love like even like Creed, like all those. I love those 80s and 90s bands a lot. I still listen to a lot of them. Yeah. So you go into the gym focused, got your heavy metal music playing. So that's what I need. So I don't like having a phone. A lot of times I don't even bring my phone in there, and I want to focus on what I'm doing, and I'll lift and I'll push through it and then I'll leave. Like I don't want to like be filming stuff if I don't have to. And I don't want to be distracted by a phone. I don't want to be texting people. I don't want people calling me. I don't want people texting me. Like I just want to be left alone for an hour and just do my thing.
You time.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you listening to your music on if you leave your phone in the car?
So my hope is the
Discman?
gym is playing some good music because I also don't like to have the phone where I have to play the music and because the other thing is, you know, you want to go into more stuff about like headphones. It's actually good to have wired headphones. It's not good to have those wireless headphones. They're actually not good for the EMFs that are literally like blasting your brain. So I try not to listen to a lot of the music with the wireless ones because I don't want it blasting my head. So that's why I end up hoping that they put on good music at the gym.
Well, is that the case? I mean, are they playing?
Not anymore.
Yeah,
So like
thrash metal,
which is why I end up
just doing it at home.
Yeah, so I do it at home, and I can play whatever I want on the TV or Spotify, and I'll leave the phone over there and just blast it on the speaker or something. So I like that better.
I'm still recording. I don't know why it's blinking like that. It's weird. Okay. Let me mark that down. All of a sudden, something caught my eye. You good?
Yep.
So I'm going to be playing in a Huey Lewis and the News tribute act.
Oh.
Drums. In May. It's called the Heart of Rock and Roll. It's playing at City Winery on May 28th. Go buy your tickets.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing a couple of gigs with those guys in Georgia the following weekend. It's funny, my watch, if I'm playing and I'm hitting harder than I've ever hit on the drums. My watch will pick up, are you working out?
Oh yeah.
And I do break a sweat. You know, I gotta have a fan.
I mean,
blowing
drummers, you know, they really get into it. And speaking of Huey Lewis and the News, I mean, Back to the Future is like one of my favorite movies of all time.
Right.
So I love Huey Lewis and the News.
How can you not?
Power of Love.
Power of Love.
I mean,
Heart of Rock and Roll.
yeah.
It's one of the best
Back in
songs.
Time.
They were my gateway band, one of them. Well, you know how like you went from your parents' music to your own, that moment? It was Van Halen 1984.
Oh, I love that.
And then
I love Van Halen.
discovered them on Assateague Island in a tent. And that was my birthday that year. I got a boombox single cassette. And the Ghostbusters soundtrack, 1984, Synchronicity by the Police, and Huey Lewis and the News Sports.
Wow.
Yeah. Good birthday.
I mean, you lived in the golden, that's still what I listen to. Yeah. That's basically my playlist right there is what you just named.
Well, you were born in 1980, so I mean, that's, you pretty much, you saw it too.
I remember though, like I didn't know about Metallica, and I remember I was playing football and I'm in the locker room and I'm in there and we're getting ready for a game and somebody's playing Metallica and it just hit me. I'm like, what is that?
So that had to be mid 90s for you.
Yeah. So that's when I got into Metallica. It was like mid 90s. Because before that I would listen to my parents, like my mom would play like the oldies station. So it's funny. I can name like all the 50s, 60s and 70s songs because I listened to them my whole childhood.
Yeah.
I can name them a lot of time and like just like a few seconds. And I got into, you know, when I was brave enough to change the station when I hit middle school, I started listening to more stuff. But when Metallica came on, it was just like, what is this that I've been missing?
Wall of sound.
I'm like, I bought all their albums. I listened to all their stuff. I memorized all their songs.
So you were late in the game to really have your gateway music.
Yeah. So that was like mid 90s when I started getting into Metallica.
Yeah. You're 15 years old.
Yeah.
I was 8. I was like, no, I don't want to listen to my parents'
Before
music.
that, I listened to
my parents' music now is known as yacht rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I listened to them, but then like I remember middle school I was listening to like Beastie Boys and I was listening to Nirvana. For whatever reason I didn't know about Metallica. I was into all the other bands really, but Metallica for some reason even like AC/DC.
Not even the Black Album?
So I knew about it, but I didn't really like know about it for whatever reason. And then it just after that I was like, man, I'm hooked. So then I really started learning more about the music, and then we had easier ways to download music and hear it and stuff. So it got easier to like just play any song at any time. And then I got into AC/DC. I love Van Halen. Even like Huey Lewis and the News, just all those 80s and 90s bands. I really love that.
It's with those types of bands, with Metallica especially, because they got popified
Yeah.
for the Black Album. It was still heavy.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of good stuff on that album. In my opinion, I haven't listened to much since. But the album before that, which was And Justice for All, which really kind of put him on the map.
Oh, yeah.
Because One was the one that was up for a Grammy and in Best Metal Performance, and Jethro Tull won.
Yeah.
Go figure.
That's so
But
ridiculous.
before that, they were just pure speed metal and you know.
And that's my favorite stuff. Like, I don't like the newer stuff as much. It's hard, I think, to maintain that heavy, gritty, you know, thrash metal sound when you start getting older. It's just, you know, and you're trying to come up with new sounds because I'm sure their labels are probably, hey, let's try something else and we got to change this. I don't like when they changed the drum sound back in the early 2000s when they had that weird, you know, on one of their newer albums. So I don't like the newer stuff as much, but I love
Anger.
yeah. When they changed the drum sound, I don't like that as much.
Well, they had the Saint Anger snare drum is what they call it, where it's basically a completely
like a wong wong. It's like
it was like hitting a freaking garbage can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was weird.
It was like a metal snare, completely undampened, nothing. It was just wide open with no gate, no nothing.
Yeah. It was. So I didn't like that. And that's when I really was like, I love Metallica, but the new stuff, I'm like, eh. So I just listen to the old stuff. Really the 80s and then like the Black Album. And a little bit of the 90s stuff. But after that, like when it hit the 2000s, they're not as good, but I still love them.
The Black Album was the last, I would say the last iteration of an album you'll ever see where the old way of the creative process was put in place. For a band like Metallica, it was worth the spend because they spent, I believe, 10 months in the studio.
Yeah.
For eight or nine songs.
Yeah.
10 months is a lifetime.
Well, and that's when they started fighting with each other too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, they brought Bob Rock in as a producer. I mean, he built their biggest album to date.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know I think he might have uncovered a lot of different things, but it's like any relationship. There's going to be ebbs and flows and highs and lows and all that stuff. But I was also a big Anthrax guy.
I used to listen to them a little bit. I ended up gravitating for whatever reason Metallica, and it just always resonated with me because it was like it still wasn't like some metal where you don't know what they're saying, they're just screaming. Yeah, Metallica didn't really get into that screaming thing, so it was still heavy and thrashy, but it wasn't like screaming metal where you don't know what they're even doing.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
But I love when they, that I like.
Yeah.
But when some of the metal bands, when they just like scream stuff and you don't even know what they're saying.
Cookie Monster bands, you mean?
That's exactly. That's a little too much. I need a little talent in there.
I got us Cookie Monster bands. I got into those because they were funny.
Yeah.
Like Napalm Death. I think it was actually Jim Carrey did a whole thing. He was on one of the late night talk shows.
I remember.
And he's like, imagine, he says Barbara Streisand and singer from Napalm Death doing a duet. You don't bring me flowers anymore, So it was very funny the way he did it.
Yeah.
I probably did not do it justice just now. But I get what you're saying because like the closest band I got to that was probably Sepultura. But Brazilian metal was fun. That was a good time. You could still basically understand. He still kind of talked like it was like screamo. On the verge of it in a way. I got into Slayer and stuff like that. I still listen to them.
Yeah.
From time to time. But that was about as heavy as it got for me. Otherwise, it kind of got ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same boat. And then like I gravitate a lot to AC/DC too. I love AC/DC stuff.
Yeah. Straightforward rock, man.
They're coming, I think, in May to either Bridgestone or Nissan Stadium. But I don't know. I don't know if the lead singer, is he still alive?
Brian Johnson?
Yeah.
I think so.
One of them died though, right? Was it the guitar?
It was Malcolm Young.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bass player. So
that kind of sucks. And I wish going back, I didn't even go to my first concert until I was like in college.
Really?
I didn't go. It was funny. Like we were into music. And Jones Beach in Long Island had concerts all the time outside.
Oh, yeah.
And then like Nassau Coliseum and even like Madison Square Garden, which great place for concerts. We just never went. If I was going to go, I would typically go to a hockey game. I'd go to a basketball game, football game, whatever. For whatever reason, I never went to a concert as a kid. I didn't even like think of asking my parents, hey, can we go to a concert? Because I didn't really know of a band that I wanted to,
which one was your first concert?
So it was Metallica. So I went to a Metallica concert in the early 2000s, and that also hooked me. So I was all set for that.
Do you kind of get upset that of all the shade that's thrown at Lars?
Yeah, like they give them a lot of credit. And then remember the whole Napster thing when they
he wasn't wrong.
But I'm like, hey, like you're stealing the music, so I get it. Like this is their profession now. Because look at what happened now. All these people are on Apple Music. You get like pennies. You get pennies for your songs.
Yeah.
Like so. You have to do concerts now to actually make any money. You have to sell merch to really make some money. You can't just put out albums and like put them on Spotify and Apple and stuff because they steal all your money. So like you're not making money like that. You have to go grind out and go do the tours.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That is the truth. My first one was Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 1991 or 92. No, it might have been 91. So yeah, I went and saw those guys at the Hartford Civic Center. And then my next one was my choice because I was given a ticket to go see Yes, my first concert experience. Saw Van Halen.
Oh, well,
I got to see those guys twice.
That would have been amazing to see them too.
I was old enough to see Eddie Van Halen in person.
Oh man. So I look back and I'm like, and then that was when Metallica would go and be with like AC/DC and they'd be with like Anthrax and they'd have these shows that had all these guys, and it's like, who's even the headliner at that point? They're all so great.
Well, that was the
I missed all those concerts.
The Big Four.
Yeah,
I think they called it. It was like Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax, Metallica.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because Charlie, who was it? Oh, they did the Pantera, dare I say, reunion tribute because Dimebag and Vinny have died.
Yeah.
So they had to fill in the guitar player and drummer shoes. So Charlie Benante from Anthrax filled in for drums. And Zach Wilde from Black Label Society was on guitar.
Oh, wow.
With Phil Anselmo on vocals and the bass player, whoever his name is. I apologize.
So
like he's going to watch this.
Pantera is actually going to be opening for Metallica.
Yeah. That's
next
what they've
month.
been doing. Really?
Yes. So one of the nights.
If you feel benevolent and you have an extra ticket and you want to help out a podcaster that had you on the show, I mean, I'm not going to say no.
Yeah. I'm going. So we have, if one of the guys, well, there's three of us. If one of them doesn't show up, then I'll definitely
let me know, man. That would be my first time seeing both.
Pantera is opening for Metallica, and then Limp Bizkit the other night is opening for Metallica, which I've never saw, but I liked his music back in the 90s.
I saw them back. Yeah.
You did?
Once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just think it would be fun to see him go out there.
What dates? Was it May 2nd and 3rd?
I think it's like a Thursday and a Saturday. So I think it's like May 2nd and 4th, I want to say.
Okay.
But it's coming up in just 3 weeks or so.
Should probably look into that.
Yeah. I'm sure you could probably get some tickets.
Probably
I bought
still.
it. So actually I have tickets for both nights. And my wife's like, are you really going to both nights? I'm like, it's Metallica. I got to go to both nights. So I'm going to go Thursday and then I'm going to go
see
Saturday.
the leather pants, don't you?
Yeah.
You're a fan of Jim Brewer, the comic?
I love Jim Brewer. He does the best AC/DC like impressions. Yeah.
Ooh,
So Jim Brewer is from Long Island. So it's funny. I used to see him at Mets games.
Yeah.
One time we were walking out of the Mets game and some guy just comes running down the tunnel and just like comes up to us and goes, just screams in our face and then just runs away. And we're like, that was Jim Brewer.
That was
like,
Goat Boy.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. I met him a couple of times here at the because I was in radio.
Yeah.
I was in radio. It was great. Very good. I don't know why I'm talking like Trump all of a sudden. We met him at the station here at Mix 92.9. He came and did it. Of all things, he comes in and does an interview because he was playing at Zany's.
Yeah.
At Mix 92.9, which was like a light rock station at the time.
Yes.
And like he was blowing out the mics and everything, just like, hey, what's up, guy? He's freaking hilarious. And I actually met him a couple times in Vegas when I was out there.
He's awesome. Yeah. I missed that show when he went to Zany, so I'm hoping he comes back because he's one of my favorite comics.
I'm trying to get him and Jay Moore on the Try That in a Small Town podcast, just reaching out to them. Next time you're in Nashville, I got a bunch of podcasts I'd love to get you on. Let me know.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, Jay Moore is cool too.
Yeah. And it's funny because all these guys are very politically leaning one way.
Yeah.
And he's unashamed.
So he just was talking about the whole the geoengineering stuff. He's actually done a lot of posts on his Instagram lately about that, talking about, because he lives in Florida now, I think.
Yeah.
And he was saying, he's like, man, I'm seeing them spraying all in the sky. He goes, why is it not going away? There's something going on here. So I'm like, yeah, he's starting to, a lot of these people are starting to wake up with some of this stuff.
Well, I mean, it's funny. I keep on going back to the Try That in a Small Town. We just had John Rich on.
Yeah.
From Big and Rich.
Big and Rich, yeah.
Biggest episode, one of the biggest episodes they've had. A lot of downloads, a lot of exposure. He put a lot of clips out, and it's actually being clipped from other news organizations. So they're actually taking footage from the actual episode and extracting highlights and posts out of it for their own purpose.
I feel like I've seen some of that, actually.
Yeah. So it's been a big week for them. And where was I going with this? We're talking about of all people. So like we're on a text thread.
Yeah.
And there's like, Newsweek just put, I'm like, freaking Newsweek,
wow.
dude? That's big.
That is big.
All this other stuff's impressive, but that's big.
Yeah.
Next day, Alex Jones repo. I'm like,
wow.
Get the hell out of here. Really? Not that I'm a huge fan or advocate of the guy. I think he's, when he started going down the Newtown thing, I was like, okay, dude, you lost me. I used to listen to you a lot and I agree with what you're saying, but that dude is being vindicated to the nth degree these days.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh my God. Stuff he was talking about 15 years ago is coming to life.
It's coming true. A lot of
it's crazy. Stuff. How does that affect your business being so public? Because you're completely open about it.
Yeah. Most of the patients I've had come in kind of think the same way as me, which is, it's fine. And like I said, I'm not in there to ever have arguments with people.
Not going to evangelize or,
Yeah. But like a lot of people come to me to ask about these things and they want to learn about some of the health things that have come up. And like I said, we're in a world where we're not healthy, especially the United States is one of the unhealthiest countries in the world. So obviously we're doing something wrong. Let's look at options to do something different. But it's funny because that used to be more of like a left-leaning thing about like health and wellness and stuff. It's really caught on to the right now. So right. I feel like a lot of people are into that now because they know that's the wave of the future.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And then, a guy like Trump who now picks RFK as his HHS administrator, secretary, like, that's the thing is like, you just got to put the right people in the right positions. And that was the right move. He was the right, you may not agree politically, they probably don't agree politically on everything, but like, that's what he's good at. Boom, that's your job. That you just concentrate on doing that for the next 4 years and you help make this country healthy. I'm like, man, I'm all about that. That's why like when I saw like who, I think more presidential candidates should bring to the table, hey, by the way, it's not just me. Here's my vice. Here's my cabinet. I'm going to pick this person for this and this person for that. It's a team. So I think people don't realize that like when they bring people out, I think they should really do that in the future. These candidates for presidency. Hey, I'm going to bring all these people to the table if you elect me. It's not just me and my vice. It's this whole cabinet. And I liked a lot of the people he picked in the cabinet. So that's what drew me to that.
Yeah. Well, here we are, and here we're going to keep on going. It's been a great episode with you. How can people find and follow you? Most part. So
you can find me on Instagram at Ideal Health Wellness Center, and then on Facebook at Ideal Health and Wellness Center. I'm located in Cool Springs, Ideal Health and Wellness Center. 615-567-6683 is the phone number. And we're there. We do chiropractic as well as red light therapy, spinal decompression. We do custom orthotics. Like I said, we're basically a one-stop shop. And we want to help not only kids and adults, but any age, really get healthy and just be the best version of themselves.
Very cool. Of course, all that information will be down in the description as normal. If you like the episode, share it out. Everything is at mmtbp.com. That is a truncated version of the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast.com. You could put that in there too if you really want to, but I made it MMTBP for a reason, so you don't have to. It's just 5 letters versus however many letters are in the really long title of this podcast. And share it out. Tell your friends. Let us know what we could be doing. Give us a 5-star rating. If you want to roast us, you got to give a 5-star. So roast for a 5-star. Even if you don't listen, you'll probably give me a 1 or a 2-star, but whatever. That's fine as long as you engage. Roast for a 5-star. If there's anything I can do to make it a 5-star, just let me know. mmtbp.com. Mr. Frank, Thanks for coming on, pal.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I love it.
You have a good weekend.
You too.